The glass wall behind me cracked before I even heard the shot. I grabbed Ambassador Vess by the shoulder and pulled her down as the second impact hit the panel above our heads. Alarms began screaming through the embassy hallway. My name is Daniel Cole, and on that night, I was not thinking about diplomacy. I was thinking about getting the woman beside me out alive, because she was not just my assignment anymore. She was the reason my heart still had a reason to keep beating steady under pressure. Vess Thalkior was the first ambassador the Chaytar Dominion ever sent to Earth. Her people were ancient, careful, and almost impossible to read. I had been hired 2 years earlier to guard her, back when I was just a contractor with a rifle and a reputation for staying calm when everyone else panicked. Nobody told me that guarding her would turn into loving her. Nobody told me that loving her would put a target on both our backs that the whole galaxy would eventually notice. I pulled her through a side corridor as another blast tore through the wall where we had been standing seconds earlier. My comm crackled with static, then a voice broke through, sharp and urgent. "Daniel, do you copy? This is Control. We have hostiles on the East Corridor. Get the ambassador to the vault now." I did not answer. I did not have time. I kept my hand locked around Vess's arm and moved fast, my boots pounding against the floor as sparks rained down from a damaged light fixture above us. She was not screaming or panicking, which was one of the things I had learned to respect about her people early on. Her species did not lose control, even when death was one wrong turn away. We reached the vault door just as 3 armed figures rounded the corner behind us. I turned, fired twice, and the 2 attackers in front dropped their weapons and staggered back into the smoke filling the hallway. The vault door slid shut behind us with a heavy metallic groan, sealing us into silence. Vess turned to me, her eyes shifting from a deep violet to a calmer blue, the way they always did when the danger passed and her mind settled. "You saved my life again," she said quietly. "That makes 11 times now." "I am only doing my job," I said, though we both knew that was not entirely true anymore. That night was the moment everything changed between us, though neither of us said it out loud yet. It took another year of secret meetings, quiet dinners, and long nights guarding her through negotiations with hostile delegations, before either of us admitted what was growing between 2 people who were never supposed to exist in the same sentence, let alone the same life. Her government did not believe in unions between species. My government did not either. But neither of us asked for permission before falling in love, and neither of us regretted it once it happened. We married quietly, away from cameras, away from politics, in a small chapel outside London, with only a handful of witnesses. It felt like the safest place in the universe, at least for one evening. 2 years later, our daughter Arya was born. She had her mother's storm-colored skin and eyes that shifted with her emotions exactly like Vess's did. 14 months after that, our son Milo arrived, looking almost completely human except for the soft glowing lines along his collarbone that lit up whenever he laughed. The galaxy noticed immediately. Chaytar scientists demanded access to study our children like specimens in a laboratory. I refused every single request personally, standing at our front door with my arms crossed until they stopped showing up unannounced. Vess handled the political side, calmly reminding every delegation that our children were not experiments, they were her family, and the conversation over that topic was permanently closed. Not everyone agreed with her. Word spread quickly through neighboring star systems that a Chaytar ambassador had produced children with a human, something considered biologically and culturally unprecedented. Some species called it fascinating proof that connection between different worlds was possible after all. Others called it dangerous, a threat to the old order that kept species separated and careful with one another. A small but loud group even called for Vess to be removed from her position entirely, claiming she had compromised her judgment and her loyalty to her own people. The tension reached its peak when Vess was summoned to appear before the full coalition summit on Threna Station, a massive orbital platform where representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to settle disputes and set policy for the region. I traveled with her, along with Arya and Milo, despite advisors' warning that bringing the children into a room full of skeptical delegates was reckless. Vess disagreed. She said hiding them would only prove their critics right, that there was something to hide in the first place. The chamber on Threnna Station was enormous, filled with rows of delegates from species I had only ever read about in briefing documents. Some had skin made of shifting crystal patterns. Others floated inside pressurized suits filled with gas clouds instead of air. All of them turned to look at us the moment we walked in, Milo asleep against my shoulder, and Arya gripping my other hand tightly enough that I could feel her small fingers trembling. A delegate named Orvin Kess, a senior member of a species known for their strict views on genetic purity, stood first and addressed Vess directly, his voice amplified through a translation device that made every word sound cold and mechanical. Ambassador, we require clarification on the status of your offspring. Many here consider their existence a violation of natural order between our species. The room went silent. I felt Arya's grip tighten even more. I wanted to step forward and say something, but this was not my fight to start. It was hers to finish. Vess rose slowly from her seat, her posture calm and steady, the way she always carried herself, even in the most dangerous moments I had witnessed beside her. "You call my children a violation," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber without needing amplification. "I call them proof. For 10,000 years, my people believed connection with another species was impossible, not because it truly was, but because we never allowed ourselves to try. My daughter runs faster than any Chitaur child on record. My son solved a mathematical puzzle at 4 years old that stumped 3 senior scholars at our academy. If that is what you call a violation, then perhaps the violation is in how small we have allowed our imagination of the future to become." Nobody moved for a long moment. Then, one by one, several delegates began tapping their hands against their seats in a gesture I later learned was the closest thing many species had to applause. Orvin Kess did not join them, but he also did not argue further. He simply sat down, his silence saying more than any objection could have. After that day, everything shifted, slowly but unmistakably. 4 other cross-species families who had been hiding their relationships out of fear came forward publicly within the year, no longer afraid of the consequences. Research requests for our children stopped entirely once the coalition formally recognized their status as protected family members rather than subjects of study. Even Orvin Kess, months later, sent a private message to Vess, acknowledging that his views had been challenged in ways he had not expected. I never stopped being her bodyguard. Not really. Old habits do not disappear just because the danger changes shape. I still check every room before she enters it. I still watch every exit whenever we travel. But somewhere between the gunfire in that embassy hallway and the silence in that summit chamber, my job became something much bigger than protection. It became a family that the whole galaxy eventually had to make room for, whether it wanted to or not. Arya is 7 now, still gripping my hand tightly whenever a room feels unfamiliar, though these days it is usually excitement rather than fear. Milo is 6, and his collarbone still glows every single time he laughs, which is often, because he finds almost everything funny in a way that reminds me constantly of his mother's dry sense of humor hiding underneath. Some nights, Vess and I sit together after the children have fallen asleep, and she reminds me that none of this was supposed to be possible. A human and a Chitaur were never meant to build a life together, let alone raise children who would end up changing how an entire galaxy thought about connection between different worlds. I tell her every time that the universe is full of things that were never supposed to be possible, right up until someone decided to try anyway. She always smiles at that, her eyes shifting into the warm gold color they only turn when she is truly happy. I did not set out to change anything the day I took the job protecting her. I only wanted to do my work well and keep her safe. But love has a strange way of turning ordinary duty into something extraordinary. And somewhere along that long and dangerous road, protecting one person turned into building a family that reshaped an entire galaxy's understanding of what was possible between two very different worlds.